The topic from the porch this morning is going to be the battle between managers and technicians when it comes to procedures, and specifically we could dial into the procedures that we would work off of in terms of a checklist. So perhaps that checklist might be related to your system inspections, on your service agreements, or your service approach. Or that checklist could even be in how you turn in paperwork or how you utilize your online tools, because there definitely is a battle. It happens often. One of the things that I saw this morning was essentially one technician saying on a tech forum, what do you do when the boss wants you to check pressures on every single call? The technician's argument was essentially that checking pressures is going to lead to a low situation on refrigerant, right? You keep checking pressures and you end up with a low situation on refrigerant. So his argument was that's why you shouldn't do it. All right, let's talk about this. By the way, as you're coming on, simple question. This is a yes or no question. Have you ever had the struggle of whether you're a manager or a technician, have you ever had the struggle of being on one side of the checklist argument and the other person being on the other? So maybe you're the manager, you want your techs to do the checklist, and you're struggling getting them to do it. Hey, maybe you're the tech, and you think the checklists are not as productive as they could be, so therefore you struggle to do it every single time. And if we talk this out and we listen to each other, we may even be able to find some common ground. So, have you ever been on that side of the struggle? Go to the comments, hit yes, or hit the like button, whatever's easier. I don't know, whatever's easier for you. So, so here's sort of the argument, and there's a lot of different arguments, but here's one of the first things I'd share with you, and this is a thought I've had for a very, very long time. A well-organized organization, whether that organization is a business or whether that organization is an army, typically is going to do much better when they're following a given set of rules. I tend to think that if everybody that is a good soldier is doing the part of a good soldier, then that army is going to outperform another army that's not doing the parts, even if the strategy is not perfect. Now, granted, USA has the best of both sides. We've got the best soldiers. God bless you, soldiers. We've got the best officers and generals and statisticians thinking about their soldiers. So, I mean, we kind of kick butt in that regard. I'm not so sure that other countries have what we have in terms of both sides of that strategy. And I also think that sometimes that's the way we might even find it in some of our air conditioning, plumbing, and electrical worlds, where we might have superiority in one side and maybe not the other. But what I do believe is that no matter what kind of work situation you're in, chances are that if you're a person that's on this website, on this Facebook page, if you're watching this, you probably want to have superiority in the field as well as in management. So let's kind of all agree to that, and that way we don't fight each other as we go through this conversation. So back to it. A checklist. So here's my thought, and I'm just going to tackle you might create a low loss refrigeration argument for just a moment. All right? So here's the deal. If I were a technician, and I was one, and I'm going to a homeowner's place, and it's on my checklist to check the refrigeration, well, if I agreed to work under those parameters, I'm going to do it because it's something that I agreed to. But here's the other more important part of it, in my opinion. I don't know if it's more important. Maybe it's as important, is that how do I know fully what's going on inside of that system if I don't have a pressure check? Now, if your argument is that you're going to potentially lose refrigerant if you check it, well, I'm going to flip that back around and go, how do you know that you haven't already lost refrigerant if you don't check it? You don't. So there are simple solutions. I mean, I was trained a long time ago on this. You know, before we even used low loss gauges, we had a little valve at the end of every single one of our gauges. So we had double valves, and the purpose for that was to make sure that we brought it back into the system. Close the valve, bring it back into the system. If you're losing anything, it's fractional. But what's most important is that you know what you got going on in there. In my opinion, you can't be super accurate unless you have data. You can't be super accurate in terms of knowing what you did or what you didn't do unless you've got both before and after data. That's my thought on it. Kind of got off on a technical tangent, right? But what we're really going to is what are the critical pieces of data? Now, this is what I might say could be part of the challenge. This could be part of the battle between managers and technicians. And by the way, it happens on all levels. And I'm sitting here thinking about myself in this regard with my new company, where I'm sitting here thinking, am I getting all the data from my team members? And also, am I asking really more than is necessary? Because I 100% believe in this concept. I want you to listen to this closely. Minimum effective dose. Minimum effective dose. And if you're going, well, what is minimum effective dose? Your med. I want you to take your medicine. I want you to take your medicine. But I want you to do it in the minimum effective dose. And the example that I would share with you would be like a time in my life when I was on cholesterol pills. The doctor was trying to make sure that he gave me the least amount that I would need to get the effect that was desired. Don't want to have too much because these pills are not necessarily good for you if you overdose your body. You want to do the minimum amount, and that's not about being lazy. That's about being efficient. You want to do the minimum amount that gets the maximum effective outcome. And I think that that's probably a very good business standard. And I think that's one that we will struggle with in our heads, because we might hear something like, do the minimum amount. And if you're sitting on the manager side of things, you're going, what do you mean minimum amount? My people might be lazy, or my people are lazy. And I'm going to say, just because they're doing the minimum amount to get the most effective dose does not make them lazy. And by the way, if I'm sitting on the technician side of it, I might be going, yeah, do the minimum. Why do all this extra work? And then it could possibly lead you to a mindset of the critical things. I'm not going to do that because of my minimalistic mindset. The important part is effective dose. And I think that if in both of our sides, both in the manager side and in the technician side, if we begin to look at the task that we ask our people to do, and if we filter through the question, does this produce an effective outcome? And if it does produce an effective outcome, then we should do it. Now, how do we do the proper amount of work and not exceed it so that the outcome produces the most desirable effect? Because I will stress to you, if you exceed what is effective, then it is an energy drain and it's a time drain. And I'll share with you candidly, that's part of what we're trying to figure out a little bit in some of our own internal transitional work right now, is how do we exceed expectation, but do it in such a way that we're focused on the proper things. And it's a really, really important balance, and it's not one that's terribly easy, but it's terribly critical. Terribly critical. Can you believe that this is the type of stuff that if you tune in on Saturdays, you just get for free? This is like master class business and life training right here from the freaking back porch in Buda, Texas. Pretty good stuff, right? All right, so there you go. That's your message for today. If you're fighting amongst each other inside of the company, it's probably because as a team you haven't decided upon what is the minimum effective doses that are required. And I recommend that you have a deep conversation. And if you didn't catch the video earlier in the week talking about an outward versus inward mindset, that's a really important one. Go watch that video, because if we don't have the right mindset, it can be very difficult in hearing each other and understanding each other and realizing where are we coming from. Because if you're coming from it with the wrong mindset, you're not going to be able to receive the good news that others might have to share. All right, that's it. I gotta go mow. Got friends coming over later. Like it, share it, submit things you'd like to see me talk about next Saturday. Chances are really good that I will do one of your pieces that you want to have covered next Saturday. That's it. You guys know what to do. Go turn learning into earning.